He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
All right, welcome to the Marlow Show. Busy stuff today. Senator Blackburn will join us momentarily. We'll talk to her about the big, beautiful bill, what's next for the Senate, amnesty, and about what's really going on with some of the left-wing hysteria over the flooding, which continues to repulse and repel me, where they're trying to blame Trump for natural disasters and the death of Christian girls, which is just sick freaks would do that. So we talked about that a lot on yesterday's show. Before I dig into it, I do want to tell you about Patriot Mobile, a great sponsor, great company. There are many choices when it comes to who you choose for your cell service, and there are new ones popping up all the time. But the truth is there's only one that boldly stands in the gap for every American that believes that freedom is worth fighting for, and that's Patriot Mobile. Not only are they leading the way in this red economy, but Patriot Mobile also outgains the competition when it comes to technology. Patriot Mobile is one of the only carriers with access to all three major networks. That's amazing. That means exceptional nationwide coverage, along with the ability to have multiple numbers on different networks on a single smartphone. Folks, this is a game changer. They also offer unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, internet backup, and so much more. They thought of everything. Switching is easier than ever. You can activate in minutes from the comfort of your home. Keep your number, keep your phone, or you can upgrade. It is time to make the switch today. Let me help you do it. Go to patriotmobile.com/Alex or call 972-PATRIOT. Use promo code Alex. You get a free month of service. Pretty good. So you go to 972-PATRIOT. That's the phone number. Promo code Alex or patriotmobile.com/Alex, 972-PATRIOT. Where it's at. Good sponsors. Appreciate them. All right. I want to mention the ICE raids out in California that are happening, which are, I think, again, another one where this is a political winner for Trump, especially if we do this now. If we do this in a off year, if we do this not in an election year, not during the holiday season, but I was listening to Victor Davis Hanson talk about this, and he was making a smart point that Trump is willing to win ugly. And this is something that Republicans, traditionally the pro-amnesty Republicans that were the leaders of the party when I was growing up, were perpetual losers, constant losers, because they always wanted to win by the Marquis of Queensberry's rules or lose nobly. And that didn't work. That's how we got Barack Obama leading the country. That's how we got the Eric Holders leading the Justice Department. That's how we got the Chuck Schumers. And it's time to not do that. And it's okay if things are legal and lawful and I believe moral. And if they're not, they don't look great, it's fine. Trust the public to be smart and to understand what's truly going on. And so the ICE raids are continuing. And I think this show of force that we're seeing from Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, Stephen Miller, I think it's actually very productive. I think it sends a clear signal. We're restoring law and order in this country. We're becoming, once again, a people of law and order who value law and order and who are not going to tolerate people skipping the line, cutting the line in order to get here to benefit from America's economy without being really a participant in the full American experience, which is that we are a people, we are a homeland, we are a nation with borders and laws and values and a language. And if you're not going to do all that stuff, then you've got to wait in line. At a minimum, you've got to wait in line. And if you're a criminal, you got to go. And so these raids, of course, are designed to target criminals. That's who they're focusing on, not just people who are garden variety illegal aliens. They're who, again, should get deported anyway. But they're focusing on criminals as best they can. They should have been MacArthur Park in L.A. And it is. The parks in our cities are ruined, and they're ruined because of the left, who has normalized that they've just become homeless encampments. And this has gone on for my entire life. I talked about this briefly with Charlie Kirk today on his show about how when I grew up in LA, you could see encroaching homelessness in the parks. And then when I got to Berkeley about not quite 20 years ago, when I was there, the illegal aliens had taken over the iconic People's Park. And this was supposed to be a symbol of the free speech movement. It was supposed to be the symbol of youthful freedom and American vibrancy, this park. But it wasn't. It was a drug den for homeless people. And that's what happens in Democrat-run cities. So I've been thinking about this quite a bit, and I haven't got a chance to bring it up. I was thinking about how I live in a neighborhood with a gorgeous park, and it's out of a dream. And when the light hits it just right, it's got this adorable basketball court and the adorable play structure. There's a little play structure for the babies. It's got these little subtle hills, but it's got a nice flat area if you want to play a sports game. It is just perfect. It's a perfect spot and just a little slice of heaven in my neighborhood. But there's something about the park which is important. It's got a fence. It's got a fence, and you need to get a little key fob if you want to get in. And I'll tell you, it's not hard to get around it. So if you really want to get over the fence, you could get over the fence. But it's just enough deterrent to keep the park nice and to keep it so that there aren't homeless people around and there aren't people taking over the park. And so my children can play in the park and have a nice childhood experience in the park. And this is because fences work, and it's nice to prioritize the citizens over the criminals. And LA has got it so backwards now, where basically they've got a ranking system where you've got, Joel Pollack put it this way to me, migrants are first, homeless are second, and residents are third. And that shows you how backwards things are. So that's what's going on. In this MacArthur Park where these raids are going on, this is not a nice place. The Democrats will talk to you like it's a nice place. Someone I saw online pulled this footage. Let me share some of it. Check this out. People are missing. There's all zombified people, schizophrenic people, people sleeping, graffiti everywhere, filth, or people clearly on drugs. It's deeply depressing. This is deeply depressing stuff. And I credit to whoever put this together. But and I can't vouch for every single one of these. I don't know if every single one of these images is MacArthur Park in case something slipped in. I'm just the necessary caveats, but that's what it's like. It's not some sort of gorgeous part of the city. It's not a good part of the city. And you're getting Democrats act as though it's some sort of an outrage that people want to clean it up. And they're cleaning it up because they don't want any illegal activity to take place at this place so long as it's under the auspices of the federal government, which a lot of this stuff is. And yet you get this reaction from the governor of the state.
I want folks to know we have your back, and we'll continue to come back and do what we can to protect our diverse communities, to protect the spirit that defines the best of this city and our state, and to push back against this cruelty, that is being perpetuated by the President of the United States.
It's actually cruel to the citizens. It's cruel that my kids can't use normal parks. So when I go down to the La Brea Tar Pits, like you can see on my Instagram feed, if you go to my Instagram, Marlow News, you see it at the top, how this is supposed to be this iconic family museum destination to spend a nice Saturday. It's just completely overrun by homeless people. I mean, these people are clueless in this state. And then to do the bleeding heart routine. Newsom is running for president. He's currently right now out of the state because he's testing the presidential waters in South Carolina, which is the earliest state where Democrats vote because Joe Biden made those rules. So, and he's also trying to lobby Trump for more money, and he's suing Trump constantly fighting with Trump, constantly insulting Trump, constantly podcasting, sometimes doing worse than me in the podcast. Hopefully we'll have a big day today, past Newsom again. In the meantime, you look at something like the Palisades fires, where LA was responsible. We were theoretically supposed to clean up LA and try to show some enthusiasm here, show some energy for making this a vibrant city that bounces back. This is elastic. Not getting any of that. It's the waste and debris removal went very well. That was all EPA and Army Corps of Engineers. That's Lee Zeldin, it's Donald Trump. It is the people, Rick Grinnell. Those are the people who get the credit. Federal government. State did nothing. City did nothing. No insurance reform. Local government didn't do anything to make the permanent process to rebuild much easier. They're trying to make it so that we've got these communal housing projects instead of these nice single-family dwellings that defined the Palisades before it burned down. So Karen Bass showed up at the ICE raids in MacArthur Park and not at a commemoration for the 6 months since the Palisades fire yesterday. Newsom's not even in the state at all. So that's where they're at out here. And it's just important to point this out, that we've got to show some mettle. And I don't care how it looks all the time, but we are going to reset this country, that we do not need to be dependent on illegal immigration. illegal alien labor. We need to restore law and order. And it doesn't necessarily make us anti-immigrant. We're anti-criminal. And we are anti-undermining the America's sovereignty, and we're out here undermining America's system of law and order, and we're against undermining the American worker to see their wages driven down, while their rent's driven up. We're against that stuff. My Breitbart Fight Club interview today is with Jerome Hudson, and we talk about the new Superman movie, which is allegedly about immigration. And they've tried to do this with Superman forever, where to try to co-opt Superman on the left, and now they're doing it with James Gunn, who's this weirdo who is not without talent. I like some of his stuff over the years, but he's been around Hollywood for 25 plus years, and he's had some good stuff. But he's a woke freak. Clearly, he's at all these. He got canceled at one point for a bunch of weird, freaky tweets, and now he's on top of the world, leading DC for Warner Brothers, which part of Warner Brothers, Time Warner, formerly Discovery, and has had a lot of problems with CNN in particular. So with their wokeness, and they put this guy in charge of these iconic franchises, and he immediately makes something that's overtly political. So he walked it back a little bit. I brought this up on yesterday's show, but he had said that critics of the movie are jerks, and he had said the movie is political, and you're a jerk if you're not cool with it, that the movie is about how we're not kind enough to immigrants. So, but then his brother didn't get the memo. His brother, Sean Gunn, who's an actor who's in the movie, he came out and he just tripled down. Check this out.
It is exactly what the movie is about. I think that we support our people, we love our immigrants. Yes, Superman is an immigrant. And yes, the people that we support in this country are immigrants. And if you don't like that, then you're not American.
If you don't like that, you're not American. Worth reiterating. It is trying to cast us all as anti-immigrant. It's just not true. We're focused on illegal immigrants, and we're focused on America first. That's the process. No illegal immigration, and Americans should be able to get jobs at the wages that Americans would earn without us importing competition for no other reason other than so that American corporations can pay their people less. Once you hit those two criteria, then we're mostly going to be tolerant of having some level of immigration, provided people want to come here and add to the economy and to become part of the fabric. So I think people get it, but we need to be tough here because you're starting to hear the amnesty talk pop up. Trump has shut a lot of it down, but not everyone does. This is a very important clip when we're talking about amnesty. This is from Brooke Rollins, who's the agriculture secretary. I'm trying to find my clip. Here it is. Check this out.
Today, we are taking this purpose and our American farmland back. American agriculture is not just about feeding our families, but about protecting our nation and standing up to foreign adversaries who are buying our farmland, stealing our research, and creating dangerous vulnerabilities in the very systems that sustain us. Reshoring and nearshoring our food and agriculture supply chain is essential for our nation's security. In coordination with the White House, the Departments of Treasury, Defense, Homeland Security, and Justice, as well as state governors, state agriculture commissioners, local, tribal, and territorial governments, today we announced the USDA's National Farm Security Action Plan. This plan includes 7 key action items, and there's a lot of people here that I want you to hear from, so I'm not going to go one by one, but just very quickly. It's on our website. The press has gotten a preview of it, and we can ask some questions.
But so far, and I want to hear these proposals. But the first point, that's an important point, is we're talking about we're not doing amnesty, and we're shutting that down. And even though there's been discussion of what do we do, we're going to make adjustments. The corporations are going to have to pay Americans a little bit more to do stuff. Some of the AI, the automation is going to replace some of the labor jobs anyway. But we're not doing amnesty. We are not ceding law and order as a conservative movement at this America First moment. because we are concerned about some short-term adjustment we're going to have to make in our economy that will mostly affect, in a negative light, the people at the very top. The people with the working class are going to benefit with wage growth right away.
We can ask some questions once we finish the main program, but very quickly, and perhaps the most important, the first of the 7, is securing and protecting American farmland ownership. Actively engaging at every level of government to take swift legislative and executive action to ban the purchase of American farmland by Chinese nationals and other foreign adversaries. Standing on the shoulders of great governors, 3 of whom are standing behind me, who have already been leading the way on this issue. And at the federal government level, working to do everything within our ability, including presidential authorities, to claw back what has already been purchased by China and other.
I mean, this is unbelievable. This is just terrific stuff. Trump administration launching efforts to shield the American food supply and research from China and other adversaries. We're going to be banning Chinese nationals from buying U.S. farmland. I wrote about this quite a bit in Breaking Biden. I have a big section on the Biden administration selling egregious amounts of U.S. farmland to China and just being completely comfortable with it. So they own a huge chunk of our land. Why do you think they're doing that? They're doing that to get a foothold, to have the ability to have bargaining chips, to have leverage, and to be able to be in proximity of America so they could pick up our know-how. And we just don't need it. It's not necessary for us to do that. Those farmland can go to Americans, can go to American companies or American individuals or the U.S. government. It is why the Chinese should own any of our farmland. It is inexplicable unless you've drank some globalist Kool-Aid that I certainly didn't serve you.
And other foreign adversaries. Additionally, working with the Treasury of the Secretary of the Treasury, along with our Defense Department, on memorandums to ensure that moving forward, there is a much more intentional look at who is buying what in this country and from where they are in the world.
Yeah, very good. And that's the type of attitude I want to see. I want to see tough, and I want to see America first, America first, America first. I was thinking about this for my Turning Point speech that I've got coming up on Saturday, and I'll try to make that available for a podcast. Hopefully Charlie will let me do that, but I'm thinking about I'm going to probably write it this afternoon. And I'm wondering if I need to just do a explainer for people what America first is all about, because I feel like some people are losing their way on that. And I can help as one of the OG America Firsters, having been editor-in-chief of Breitbart for so long. Maybe that's the move. But Democrats getting increasingly, their bloodlust is increasing. I alluded to this earlier in the show, where I talked about how, and particularly on yesterday's show, how they're almost glee to blame Trump over the natural disaster that took place in Texas where children died. Democrat lawmakers say voters are threatening blood and violence over the Trump agenda. The Axios had a story saying that Democrats are trying to get arrested. Very obvious. I played the Jose Padilla thing. He's actually Alex Padilla, but JD Vance called him Jose Padilla. You know, I had this written down. I was going to say, should we change the show to the Jose Marlow Show? Because we accept that confusing the name Alex for the name Jose. We could do that here on the show. So it's but JD called him Jose and his real name's Alex. You know, my parents used to call me Alejandro sometimes. So that works out. But they're trying to get arrested. They're trying to do some sort of a new civil rights movement type deal with illegal immigration. And I think they should try it. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work for them, but we need to just calmly, politely say we believe in law and order, and we're arresting the criminal aliens, and start with the worst offenders. And then I think we'll be in good shape. There's a tragedy on July 4th where an illegal alien is accused of killing 19-year-old Breonna Kelson in a Florida hit and run. Breonna Kelson is not a white person, by the way. So a POC, as it is said, should never happen. You should never an illegal alien drunk driver killing a young woman on a holiday. A day for revelry and celebration. Every single incident of this is not necessary. It is wrong. It is avoidable. So no illegal alien caused death is necessary in this country. So we got to stand up against the craziness and the insanity. One thing we're doing that's anti-insanity is apparently the TSA is not going to require travelers to remove their shoes at airports. That feels like that was a big over. That was where they say, the terrorists have already won type deal. That we'd won shoe bomber. That was, I think that failed. And I don't think that actually was a success. And then we took off our shoes for 30 years after that. Seemed like a bit much. So, but hey, I got the TSA, the fast pass, whatever you call that thing, the pre-check. Why don't you guys get that? I'm stunned, those of you who choose to wait in a long line whenever you go to the airport, is that the pre-check doesn't take that long. You do it one time. I think it took me an hour one time, and the hour wasn't fun, but then you can just renew it if you stay in good standing, and then you don't have to take off your shoes ever again. You make up the hour, I promise you. Get the pre-check. But that would be great, because I just don't, Trump does this stuff where he looks at what are things we're doing where this is insane that we're doing them. Can we stop? And then he just stops, and that's great. So we're doing that. A veteran cyclist, Julie Cutts Peterson, refusing to take the podium with a transgender athlete. This is a good one. I'm very happy about this. A trans cyclist, KJ Phillips, the Lions Masters National Championship in Wisconsin, made the podium. And Peterson said, at the finish line, I was upset. I did not want to race against a man. In my mind, I was like, I can say that. I have freedom of speech. I was raised believing in the Bible, where men are created by God and God created women from men. I was born and raised in America, where I learned my pronouns, and I took science classes that taught me about XX and XY. And I believe that most Americans and people worldwide would support men not being in women's categories. Boom. Love this. Absolutely perfect. And good for her for standing up to this man infiltrating women's sports. Though I admit, it shouldn't be necessary. It should not be necessary at this time. We should have solved this one. This thing should have been over with, where we should just stop it. We got to shut it down. California, by the way, instead of fixing the illegal immigration issues and fixing some of the crime issues that we've seen and fixing some of the homelessness issues and the budgetary issues and the fire safety issues, they're focused on opposing Trump's transgender athlete ban from schools. So they are going to try to push back. We cannot let them. We have to be diligent here, and we have to hold our ground. All right. A lot of other stuff cooking over at Breitbart for you. We had our big Fight Club roundtable with Jim Jordan yesterday. That was an adventure. I could talk more about that. But he brought up the John Brennan issue that I raised on yesterday's show. Brennan clearly busted lying to Congress, it appears. And he said all options are on the table for a potential perjury for deep state John Brennan, one of the worst people ever to ascend the hierarchy of America's bureaucracy. So one of the worst guys in Washington, and all options on the table. Love hearing that. And then Carney's on Tariff Watch. We're seeing like a dozen trade and tariff deals, 50% tariff on imported copper right now. All this is out of the deal. And Trump is going to give and take depending on who wants to make deals with him. He wants to make deals. He's tough but fair. And we'll have all of that for you at Breitbart News. But a lot going on, and I encourage you to check everything out. But I want to get to Senator Blackburn. I will say thank you to producer Misty and all of you in the audience for telling 10,000 friends and family members about the show, liking, commenting, subscribing, sending me an email, aloha@alexmarlow.com. And here's Senator Blackburn. You guys have heard me talk about how the media is broken and how legacy media and big cable are filtering information to hide the truth. And this is driving America's trust in the media down to historic lows. It came up on today's show. We're talking about CBS News censoring Kamala Harris intentionally in order to try to help rig the election against President Trump. These companies benefit from spectrum, which is allocated from the U.S. government. Thanks to the podcasts like Breitbart, new media outlets, the truth can break through and providing voices that otherwise would not be available to you on the airwaves. But one of the reasons why they keep us limited is because spectrum is limited. Trump isn't buying it, neither is Senator Ted Cruz. And in the big, beautiful bill, Republicans have heard your voice and are providing more spectrum. So what does that mean for you? It can reduce your monthly broadband bill, preserve your ability to watch, listen, and stream content that you choose, and not just what's chosen to you by some cable provider. The sale of spectrum will also generate billions to reduce our national debt. So don't let giant cable providers and legacy media continue to filter your information. Tell your senator and member of Congress to work with Senator Cruz and President Donald J. Trump to expand spectrum. This could be very helpful to those alternative media outlets that I know you love them because you're already using them. EndTheCableopoly.org is the website to learn more. EndTheCableopoly.org. If you want more spectrum available, that's the place to go. Check it out. All right. One of the only politicians I have genuine affection for is Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. She's with me today. Has always been good to us at Breitbart, me in particular. Senator, it's great to have you on, and I just want to get right into business here. I want to talk about the big, beautiful bill and then what comes next. And let's start with one of the unfortunate parts about the bill, even though I was pretty robustly supportive of it. Overall, I thought it was really the only way forward, and I think that's looking good today. But we don't have all the detail, I think, internalized, just too big and too vast for that. Could you share with me a couple of highlights that you think maybe are not getting the level of attention that it deserves, and maybe a low light or two that you feel like we got to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we lose sight of is this is the biggest tax cut in U.S. history. And on top of making the 2017 tax cuts permanent, there's no tax on tips or overtime. And of course, the provision that I've worked on for years, removing the tax from Social Security. And the fact that seniors are getting that $6,000 bonus deduction every year per individual. That is something that is really going to be a money saver for a lot of our nation's senators, just as citizens. Think about the seniors that are married filing jointly, and they will have an extra bonus $12,000 deduction. So that's a really great item for them. One of the things that I'm pleased we got out of the bill was that AI moratorium. Congress has proven that it is incapable of legislating on tech policy or emerging technology or the virtual space. I have tried since 2012 to pass legislation that would put in place a federal standard. And Congress hasn't done that. And I was able to get that out of the bill, but going forward, that is a policy we're going to need to watch. Our states have innovated. They should be able to enforce their laws. And until Congress passes a federally preemptive standard, then the states have the right to innovate and enforce their law.
That's terrific. And I'm glad you brought up the Social Security element, because I, as someone who's just a fiscal conservative, I find it completely shocking that we would tax. It seems like a double tax, and it just seems like that's Washington at its worst, Senator, that we would do that. That's just, let's figure out some excuse to confiscate more money from taxpayers, and it's completely unjust. It's immoral to me. I think taxation is a moral issue. I've criticized Republicans for not phrasing it this way in the past. Is that they're putting a gun to our head and saying the money that we earned, they need more of it. And I feel like we need to do a better job of justifying where everything goes. I think that's really the spirit of all this, and the double taxation essentially in Social Security, such a no-brainer. And again, you're right. I don't think I've had one conversation about that particular provision with anyone I've talked to about the bill.
And it is an important provision when you think about how unjust it is to tax the Social Security tax that you have paid in for years, and then you get it, and then it is taxed again. And so I've worked for years to get that removed, and I was thrilled that even though we couldn't change the statute, what we did was to alleviate the issue by doing that $6,000 deduction per individual per year. And what a great savings that will be for our nation's seniors.
Yeah, very good, and good stuff there. The other thing that I want to get to in particular is what happens next. We've got we're through the reconciliation process, but there's a lot of confusion about how budgeting and spending is done. I'm kind of happy that I feel like there's a genuine interest now online of trying to figure out what goes on. I feel like this year there's more interest than usual, but the Elon Musk, for example, seems to not understand what's going on. He seems to confuse all of the various ways that things are spent.
Yes.
Fill us in.
Yes, indeed. We have the rescission process that begins this week. Now, reconciliation travels on one path and rescission on another. And when people say, are you making the DOGE cuts permanent? That happens in rescission. And there again, we can do this on a 51 vote margin. And we are working the rescission bill already. It is $9.4 billion in savings. And these are things you actually draw a red line through it. You mark it out of the federal budget. So as I say to people, say 9.4 billion times 10. That's your number. And you're going to have nearly $100 billion in savings by taking this out of the budget, because it is a 10-year document. So big savings that are coming through the rescission process. And just like with the reconciliation process, we have the opportunity to do a second reconciliation bill in the fall and a third next year. We have the opportunity to do as many rescission bills as we can get on the calendar, and we should do a lot of them because this is a bloated budget and we have a lot of cutting and trimming and reshaping that we need to do.
Give us a few items that you feel like must get cut right now.
Oh, things that we need to be cutting. We're looking at that NPR and public TV funding, that public broadcast. That is somewhere to go. The USAID is in this first package. We also need to be looking at duplicative programs. And when you have these duplications in services and programs, that has got to be trimmed up and consolidated, because people don't know where to find services because now there are so many different programs and they can't figure it out. So simplification will not only save money, it is going to be something that will make government more efficient. Likewise, eliminating positions that have outlived their usefulness. That is something that we should be doing more of and can do through the rescission process.
Right. That's very good. Okay. So what is the timetable for getting this stuff done?
Rescissions we're working on this week and next week. Hopefully when we leave here next week, we've finished that. And then we'll see how quickly we can move to the regular budget process where the Appropriations Committee does their work. And we'll have the opportunity through the appropriations process to do some more spending reduction.
Okay, I want to ask next about some of the lawfare against President Trump. This has been a deep subject of my research over the last year, and this is going to be increasingly a part of the show as I get ready to release my book on lawfare against Trump, Breaking the Law, which is coming out soon. And we saw it again, a judge interfering, blocking cuts to Planned Parenthood. I mean, just the thought that the federal government must fund Planned Parenthood, which is the abortion industry, this should repulse everyone. Even if you think of yourself as pro-choice, I don't see how you would think it's a government compunction to have to fund that stuff. But what is your reaction to that? And what is your reaction to just the continuing lawfare in general to try to stifle the agenda?
Well, and of course, we know that district judges, and the court has ruled that these district judges are limited to the case before them and the district in which they serve. And this is another of those that they don't have the right to do this. It is not something that is on their docket. And I think that what you'll see is another challenge on that. The president and Congress have the right to speak on this. A federal judge cannot legislate from the bench.
One of the things that you've been a champion of is no amnesties and tougher border enforcement. How is the border and immigration agenda going from your perspective? Very dramatic. We're simultaneously seeing these dramatic ICE raids out in California, where I am, but also some discussion of amnesties, which I think would be a disaster for this administration. What do you think is the path forward?
I think you're going to continue to see deportations take place. Tom Homan and Kristi Noem have been pretty solid in that. I don't anticipate that they're going to back down or that a policy is going to change. And
so what about the prospect of amnesty? I'm hearing all these amnesty discussions going on. Do you think any of those have any legs?
You know, you're hearing different things out there. I think individuals that would like to weaken President Trump's agenda are trying to find something to hang on to. And I know we have heard from the president's cabinet, different members of that cabinet, there will be no amnesty. And the White House has been solid in that.
Senator, we had these horrific flooding over the weekend, and I was very struck by how there was a rush to politicize it and to try to blame President Trump and Republicans for natural disasters and the death of children. I found this particularly ghoulish. And you're someone who I think carries herself similar to how I try to carry myself, which is you're tough on the issues, but you also try to be very polite. Do you ever get surprised or alarmed by some of the rhetoric that you see where it just seems like people are almost rooting for mass deaths of children if they can blame Trump?
I have been horrified and just heartbroken for these families. I choke up every time I talk about it. To think of these precious little girls who were just swept away in the middle of the night. It is horrific. And for these parents, you just wish that you could hold them in your arms and grieve with them, and the anguish and the grief that they must be experiencing. This is a time to come around this community, to come around the surviving children and camp counselors, these parents, and to just hold them in your heart and in your arms and in your prayers. And for people to begin immediately trying to politicize what is a natural disaster and try to make it President Trump's fault or the mayor's fault or the sheriff's fault, or this is not the time. There will be a time to investigate the warnings and the alerts. But right now, being able to grieve with these communities, being able to say, how do we support these children that are going to need support and counseling and help for a long time to come in order to deal with something that was such an awful tragedy.
Senator Blackburn, I know you only had limited time today, so I will thank you for your time and hope you'll come back soon. At Marsha Blackburn on Twitter, or X, the Everything app as we call it now, and her Senate website also full of useful information. Thanks for checking in with us. I appreciate you.
You got it. Take
Bye.
care.